What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode, Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence. I am Jack Allen. First, go follow me on the socials at Kojak Podcast. Support the show if you want. We got a new Patreon supporter. Oh my God, dude. And I'll give you a shout out when I introduce my good friend, Mr. Scott. Scott, just tell everyone where they can find you, and we'll do it again at the end. But just so your
Jack,
links and all that stuff.
Jack, what up? On Twitter, it's going to be JBN Pod. It's Just Be Normal Podcast is what I'm the host of. So it's JBN Pod on Twitter and Just Be Normal Podcast on Instagram. And that's what I got.
Dude. So tell everybody where you were last week.
Oh, North Georgia. I was in.
Nice.
So the town was lovely Livonia, which I'd be willing to bet 99.8% of America has never heard of.
What's it
I was
called?
on some Livonia. I can't imagine the population is over 500 people. They're just, it was
the population 2,500.
Oh, look at me.
So,
big numbers.
Wow.
So, but either way, yeah, rural Georgia lake house on Lake Hartwell. So it was quite the endeavor.
Nice, dude. That's probably the small 2,500. That is a small town, dude.
It was one of those that didn't have a stoplight. There was
awesome.
a stop sign. Yeah, it was cool. Like it really was like stepping back in time. They had like a general store type, the butcher. It was neat. I liked it.
Dude, that's back when America was at its peak, when those types of towns ruled before they made all the interstate highways. That's the America I want to go back to.
And it's pretty neat seeing it live. Like the architecture is the same. You know what I mean? Like, and sure enough, like they're way enough off the beaten path that the interstate traffic really didn't affect it. So it's cool. It's kind of untouched.
Dude, that's so awesome. So before I get started, I wanted to talk with Scotty about nukes, World War I, some gold hunting. What's up, Rosalind? Thanks for coming. So I got this message today, and I warned Scott about it. So I got a message. I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to read it. It's a little wild. So let me just make sure there's no curse words in it. Okay. All right. Here it is. And so I didn't know. I've never seen this before in my life. Share screen, window.
I'm very intrigued.
For people listening, it said, I get this message, like, you get a message request. So I click the message. It says, please let me bow down and be a human wallet for you and your wife, sir. I am begging. I realize beta males like me just exist to be used and laughed at by alphas. And that was the end of the conversation. I accepted. I said, thank you. I am flattered, but no, thank you. He said, if I change my mind, he will be a maid and a wallet for me and my lovely wife, Liv. So what's your immediate reaction to that, Scott? That was an odd message that I received this morning at 10 a.m.
Super bold, especially given the time of day, I would say.
Yeah.
Really aggressive way to wake up.
Very aggressive, dude. But honestly, I follow this account on Twitter. It's like incel posting L's. And dude, this people, like, maybe that's just like somebody, maybe the CIA is trying to get me to send them pictures of me to get blackmail. But I was just like, dude, people like actually, that's crazy, dude. Like, what world do people live in?
Well, and that's, the point being is that if that truly did come from someone's like phone, or because the other thing I always worry about with Twitter is like how many bots there are.
Yeah.
Are they just like baiting people at this point for this kind of activity? But still, dude, there's no way, because I don't think a bot is telling me I'm going to be a human wallet. That's so crazy.
I know, dude. I was like, oh my God, dude. I felt bad and was like a little flattered as well. But, I just found out, I was just like, whoa, dude, that is crazy. And I wanted that was the first time. I don't know if that's fan mail or what that is. And speaking of fans, Justin, thank you for supporting the Patreon. He's our new supporter. And we have a few others there, but you guys know who you are. So if you want to support the show. Anyway, all right. So now we'll get to like the good stuff. I just wanted you to see that, because I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah, because like,
crazy.
Was it in your DMs, you said?
Yeah, like, like it'll say request message or whatever. And in this community, we get a lot of mentally ill people. So I have people that, I'll just like their stuff because they're nice. They send me stuff every day. I can't like read it all, but yeah.
You got to filter through, but you've never had the human wallet request.
I've never had, no one's ever offered to be my wallet. Sometimes, you know, the IRS still owes me $2,000. So if I don't get that in the next 100 days, I may be hitting this gentleman up to see
Some
how
might
much.
say you're their human wallet.
Yes. There you go, dude. We're all somebody's wallet. That could be an
Hey.
episode of the show right
There you
there. Yeah. Well, so I talked to Scott before. I wanted to, so I gave him a few topics. Well, first, Scott, you've watched Boardwalk Empire, right?
No, not in completion, but I
You
know
didn't?
the premise. No, I would say
Yeah.
I got through the first like 3 seasons, I think.
Okay. So yeah. So I get too stressed watching shows. I don't know if anyone else. First, Netflix. I love watching at 1.5 because I get real stressed, dude. Like, and I'll just fast forward. And once you start, it's like addicting. I can't stop. But I love that. And you called it because I was watching The Sopranos, and you were like, "Oh God, he's going to switch to Boardwalk Empire." And dude, I love it. I love it.
As soon as they came up in conversation, I know where your heart lies and what time period. And I have never been the type to love the mob or really much, in my opinion, to do with it, like especially movie wise.
Yeah.
At that time period. So I knew as soon as you brought it up, your attention was going way off Sopranos, and you were like just getting to the good parts of the Sopranos. So to hang a left is so fun.
Done. But so the thing I love about and for anyone listening, Boardwalk Empire, it's about prohibition. So that happens right after World War One, and so that's why I was going to start with our World War One topic, because so the main character in that one of them in the beginning, his name's Jimmy, and he served in the World War One. He was over in Europe. And World War One's like a forgotten war. Like everybody knows about the Nazis. Everybody knows about Mustache Man. And so I didn't know anything about World War One until I read this one book. Just because you're like my normal person, like Liv wouldn't have no idea. What do you know any, like, if someone asked you what was World War One about or how did it start, do you have any idea or no?
No, to be honest, it's pretty embarrassing. And I would say, like, I don't want to come across as the ignorant idiot on this show.
Dude, I didn't know
I would say what I know about it is minimal. I could not tell you how it started, and I couldn't even give you the time frame. And I have an idea, but time frame, who's involved? No, you can teach me all
you're
you want.
in like the majority of the world. Like,
why is that? So first off, sorry to interrupt, but like why?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think you and I, like we've mentioned before, we grew up together. So I would say I didn't apply myself, but I can reference like algebraic equations, like certain stuff like that. Like, why is that I don't remember, or I feel like it wasn't hammered home?
Dude. And so that, like, dude, when I studying that book, I was the same way. I knew it was like earlier than World War II, but beyond that, and it's like, I don't know what the answer. I think my personal answer is World War II was when the press and everybody got on the same page. So they were able to create this narrative, kind of like we have with Russia right now. You create this boogeyman in the press, Hitler being that boogeyman, where they're the ultimate evil and you are the ultimate good versus the ultimate evil. So it's easier to memorize like that war, because your immediate react when you think Nazis is pure evil. They are like, next to the devil, Satan sitting next to them. And that's why they pound that topic, because it's an easy way to say, hey, this is the evil people. We're the good guys. And so that's, as much as our American brains can handle. At least that's my theory.
It makes sense, though, because you think about, just like you said, and from like an outsider perspective, what's going on with the war now. And just like you said, they're painting a picture of pure evil. And then this white knight character who's now like getting paparazzi pictures of just when he goes to, the city. Like, so, and that's all I see. So I don't really even know the dynamic of what is like those visits are truly about or anything. But just like you talked about, the perfect image versus the most horrific.
Exactly, dude. No, that's exactly it. So World War One, it was this. It starts in 1914. But so funny enough, so Germany was in both these wars. They were the bad guys. So this country took on the world with a few allies two times in a row. So why they picked Germany? That's like my conspiracy thinking. Like what was Germany doing? But basically, in my mind, World War One, So at this time in Europe, you have Britain, who has a central bank. They were the largest empire. This is kind of the downward and the rise of America, the downward trend of Britain. But so this war, it's versus Germany and versus Austria, these countries that still had monarchies in 1914. So they were still ran by a king, a Kaiser, a czar, like insane, right? This was only 100 years ago, and you still had a monarchical form of government, no constitution. And that's what this war was about. The war was about to get rid of the monarchies, to get rid of them, install central banks, and bring this lovely democracy that we have to spread the world. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
but let me ask you. So I get now why it's ramped up and why it started, but do we have any idea what life looked like for those people in those like countries? Because was a monarchy really horrible, or was it,
Dude,
like we're talking?
Great question. It's almost like I told you to ask that question. That is so, dude. Germany. So the reason why, and this is going to be probably like supporting Germany. I'm going to pull up a picture of what their map. But so Germany was dominating Europe. So Britain was the top dog. Like that little island. I'm just going to pull up a map of Europe just so we can see how tiny.
When you're talking about like them being top dog, you just mean in terms of like taking over land and
right, like colonies, power, military
army
strength.
power. Okay, got it.
Yeah, all that stuff. Britain was the top dog of Europe. And so Germany, though, since the 1890s, they start just getting stronger and stronger. They come up with the blimp. You know that the
Hindenburg.
Blimp? Yes, exactly. So that they were like everything. They were killing economically, they were killing technologically, and they were surpassing Britain's abilities to like trade and all these things. They were getting in the colonizing game, like where they take over a little third world area and essentially use them as slave labor like Britain did. And so Germany's just getting stronger and stronger, and Britain with their central banking, that's like the Rothschilds and those powerful bankers, they're getting nervous because they can't get their central bank into these monarchies because the monarchy holds the top power. So you can only, they work their way into Britain through like these deals. So the monarchy in Britain at the time, though powerful, wasn't as powerful as say like the Kaiser, that's the king of Germany, or the Tsar of Russia. Yeah.
But would you say morality ever plays in? Because like from the way you're talking, it's like, yeah, no shit, they wanted to stop Germany. They're like taking over people, they're enslaving people. But for me, then it's like, are people getting involved, like you're saying, because of a financial reason? Is the US getting involved because of strictly finances, or is it actual morality where it's like, these are the bad guys?
Dude, wouldn't it be nice if that was the answer?
Because that's what I swear to God,
bad guys.
I swear to God, that's what I think. Like, it's like, no wonder. Like, yeah, I hate Germany. Look at them, those awful people. It's like, I don't know. That's what we grow up thinking, right?
Dude, exactly. And like, that's the propaganda they put out. Like wars. I mean, think of every war we've been in. What are the chances that every single time America is this, oh, please, everyone says, please save us, America. You installed a dictator. Even though he now you're not supporting him, he's hurting us. They were always the good guy. What are the odds of that?
That is,
they'd be astronomical.
Yeah, that's why I guess you're right, because it's like, then you're assuming that as an American, like we're the only moral country,
right?
Like, we're different from everybody else just because of the Constitution, and that is pretty crazy. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't think like people in Britain now are like, yeah, we're pretty morally correct. Like, they probably think the same thing. So it's like, why do we think everyone's bad? That is nuts, dude. I didn't think about that.
Dude, I love it. I love it, dude.
Well, hold on. Did you ever? Yeah. There's a bit. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's Norm Macdonald does a bit on Germany and the World Wars, and his whole. And I'm not going to attempt to do it, but if you know how he tells a joke, he talks about how Germany chooses as its foe the world, and then you realize, and then he's like, the whole point of the joke is like, the worst part is they almost won, and then like they
Right.
did. So it's like crazy to think about too. Like one country is gonna,
Well, dude, and that speaks to testament of how, and so it was in World War One, especially. It wasn't just Germany. I think I had a picture up. They were actually allies with Austria-Hungary, who had the monarchy still then, and I think they were pals with Italy in World War One. I can't remember, but they had support. It was essentially Eastern Europe minus Russia. So that's like the
so a pretty big
Slovakian.
force.
What's that?
So a pretty big force they were.
Right. Yeah. You can't obviously, like, they're going to lose to, so that was the thing. So for the past 30 years leading up to World War One, Britain was trying to poke Germany with the stick. So they had these poor farmers down in South Africa. So you ever, like, I remember as a little kid, I went to a swim camp and there was a white guy who was like a swim coach, and he was like, "I'm from Africa." And my mind was like, wait, what, dude? How are you from Africa and you're white? And and like Elon Musk, he's from South Africa.
Yeah.
So there was a bunch of Germans and Dutch down in South Africa, and then they were just like these Christian farmers, wanted to be left alone, and then they found diamonds and gold. So who comes down but the R kids and this guy named Cecil Rhodes from Britain, and they try to start a war with Germany there, and they kind of do. This was the first time of concentration camps in the Boer War. They killed the good guys, the British. They killed 40,000 women and children. They poisoned wells. They starved them. They beat defenseless farmers to death under the guise of they wanted freedom for the people there. They weren't treated as like, because they weren't allowed to vote if you just moved there, which were all these diamond and gold hunters. The similar thing they do in America, right? Like these people came in trying to capitalize on the diamond and gold mines, and they couldn't vote because the Boers, that was their name, they said, well, yeah, you just got here. Like, I'm not going to let you vote on things. And so Britain said, that's not fair. And they started a revolution, and which eventually led to war. And this was the first poke to get Germany to attack Britain.
Wow.
But yeah, that was the first concentration camp, was these R kids, the Rothschilds, and this guy named Alfred Milner. And they imprisoned these women and children in South Africa because they wanted these gold and diamond mines, which they end up getting.
That's a topic we should get into on a later date. Is just, I have some, Africa in general intrigues me. Just like all the conflict there, and like the lack of resolution and the lack of care from, you know what I mean? But like, it sounds like it started back then. Like a bunch of rich white people were like super pissed and super greedy, started some shit, and they just kind of left it to the dust.
Yes, dude. Well, so do you know, like, diamonds? I mean, we both had to get our wives diamonds. The diamond industry is a sham, dude. So first of all, diamonds aren't rare. There's this company called De Beers. I don't know if you ever heard of De Beers.
I've seen the name, I think.
Okay, so they're the ones, they own 95% of all the diamonds in the world. It's a Rothschild from South Africa. That's where it started. What they do is they only release so many each year. And so they do that to keep the supply low. And then in like the 30s, they started a advertisement with Tiffany's saying like, every girl wants a diamond, or whatever. There's a diamond lasts forever, whatever the slogan was. And that was how diamonds became popular. And again, they own all, like, their diamonds aren't a rare stone. They just hold them all and only release so many each year.
Damn. It's like old school Bitcoin.
Yes, dude.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like there's only so much. It's limited. You have to, like, that's crazy. And that really, they monopolized something.
Exactly.
They monopolized something they made up as rare. Which is,
obviously they're not like growing in the size, they're still difficult to get, and they're a very hard stone. But this whole notion that they're like the rarest of the rare is totally false. It's just, again, they have like these huge vaults, dude. I wonder if we can pull them up. De Beers. But they just have thousands, tons and tons and tons, and they just release them real slowly. And that was all gotten during that war that led up to poke Germany into World War One.
Isn't that something?
I know, dude. It's crazy, right? And but back to like World War One, they they just keep poking Germany with a stick. And what they do is the Freemasons, that's how we're going to get into our next secret societies. But the Freemasons, they're taking over all of Europe. They're in every country. And they keep trying to poke Germany. Like, come on. They keep doing little things to get them to try to attack. They keep saying, no, we don't want to fight. We don't want to fight. And then what they do is they go assassinate this Franz Ferdinand. So that's what they usually attribute to World War I. Was these Freemasons, this group called the Black Hand, who got grenades and all their weapons from the Masons, which were funded by Britain to assassinate this guy. And he knew he was going to get killed too. But he said it was like he's with his wife. They shoot at his wife, and he says, Sophie, hang on for the children. And they get her back to the castle, and she dies there, and then he dies as well. Jeez. And that's how World War I. Sad story, right, dude?
Yeah, Franz Ferdinand. And isn't that some shit? Like, that's the only reference I know from that whole war. And it's probably because I think he was a cartoon duck at some point too.
I think the band.
There you go. Maybe that's it. There's
like a song, Franz Ferdinand. I forget who.
Yes, you're right. I think I forget. We're gonna get ripped, but
it was like a 2000s classic song,
something like that.
Yeah, it was like an indie. But yeah, dude, and that was literally how World War I started. And dude, it was just such a horrible war, like Peaky Blinders, right? You watch Peaky Blinders, right?
Yeah.
So that was that guy. He was they call it. Who's the main character's name?
Wow, what's his name? Not Patton. Now I'm getting it confused. Patrick Shelby, or
yes. So he was a tunneler, right? That was what he called him. So, dude, it was literally like they just staked out Europe in like Belgium and these different places. They would dig these huge trenches, and they would throw mustard gas, and I mean, like, it was just such horrible, horrible war. Like, so it's like yeah. Here, go ahead.
So how? This is all going on. That group of Eastern Europe was sticking together.
Yeah.
This is all taking place. And you said, where are these trenches and stuff?
Yeah. So like it was all in Europe, like France, Belgium, Germany. Like Russia they were coming from the other side.
Dude, and you don't like these pictures, like uniforms. Like I can tell, like, at least from old pictures, I could give you a rough estimate, right? Like what war you're kind of looking at. Like you don't ever see stuff like this because I swear to God, that did not get taught anything about.
Dude, I know it doesn't. And it's just so like, dude, like imagine your horses with like having to wear like it's just so sad, dude. Like, and like these men, they came back. I mean, this changed the world, dude, because prior to this, wars, they weren't fought like they didn't have, though they had guns, like the Boer War, they had guns. That was the one in South Africa. The guy who, I just have to say this quote, the leader of those concentration camps in South Africa, his name was Alfred Milner, just a scumbag of a human. He claimed that that the machine gun was a fad, that the way you win a war was with a strong cavalry. So God knows how many thousands of his soldiers did he open up to slaughter because of his boomer idea. Machine gun. That's just whack. Horse.
He's got his red coat and his little drummer boy next to him. It's like,
dude.
What are you doing, dude? Come on.
But isn't that such a boomer comment? Machine gun. No, horses and a sword. That's how we're gonna win.
What a fat.
I know. But dude. But like, it's so this war though, like I said, it was just so all the like that movie we were just talking, Boardwalk Empire and Peaky Blinders. That was that generation of guys who fought in this just such a sad war. That was, they made up these lies. They had all this propaganda again. So I think we talked a little bit about false flags last episode, but like, so to get us into World War I, how did you get America in it? Because so Europe's bankrupt. They're killing each other, and Britain's losing. Germany has submarines. I told you they had they had all this technology. Their subs were starving Britain. They couldn't get out of it, but they knew they had their secret card was to pull America into the war. But no one in America wanted to go into war. We were like, that's Europe's war. It's horrible. And what do is we have this ship called the Lusitania, and it has ammo on it. Tons of ammo, like 5,000 crates, 1,000 rounds per crate. And we're sending it to Britain. And Germany puts out ads in the New York Times, says, do not ride, Americans, don't ride on this ship. It is carrying arms. We will sink it. And we put Americans on it. What happens? It gets sunk and America's pulled into the war.
No way.
And that's how
that
it does.
was like the tragic event.
Yeah. So that was like, how dare these Germans sink innocent Americans?
Wow.
But it was a trick, dude. This was all planned for the past 10 years. Like this guy, Woodrow Wilson, he was the president, and he was the guy who passed that put the line banking system in America. He did that, and then he brought us into World War I, and we sent our men to the slaughter, dude.
So would you say, like, at that time, do you think getting into war and getting the American people to back war was easier because of like the almost like blind patriotism? It at least seemed like, from our perspective, it seems like our grandparents' generation was almost just like, we're American, we're proud, and we're going to hang our flag, respect the military, all that. So do you think it was easier? Like if something like that happens, like, oh my God, Germany shot one of our passenger ships down, let's get them. Was that the mentality, do you think?
Yeah,
like, it's
dude.
easier to round the pigs? Like,
this is going to blow your mind, dude. So, you just said like my grandparents fought in World War II. Did yours? I'm sure they did.
yes.
Yeah. So you would think like, because there's always the propaganda movies we see, like like everyone's dying to enlist. There were more people enlisted in the Vietnam War than World War II. They had to draft more people to fight in World War II than they did for Vietnam. Wow, isn't that crazy?
That's really surprising, because especially who the bad guy was in that one. They did a hell of a job painting that picture too.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah. So America, dude, we didn't want this war. Woodrow Wilson campaigned on not going into the war. And then he said, like, just stay out of it. That was like his slogan. And everyone said, yeah. And then once they sunk that ship, the press came on full force. They had the evil Hun. I'm going to put up World War I propaganda. You couldn't say this today.
Does that mean, like, then why did he just flip on a dime? Like,
because he was in the banker's pockets.
Yeah,
he was. So so this even's like a perfect. See this? Destroy this mad brute, and that's the German helmet, and it's a monkey with. And so again, like, what do we hear about German? I mean, I guess we haven't heard too much stuff about Russia yet, but World War I propaganda, they said that they put all this stuff in the papers that these Germans were coming into churches and raping the nuns and bayoneting babies. That was a big thing. They said the Germans were just taking their guns and stabbing infants in their cribs. But we see that again in World War II. We see it again in Vietnam with like these people they're killing, and we see it again, not really now, I guess, but we saw with like Saddam Hussein, the first Gulf War. They said they went into incubators and they were kicking babies out of incubators, and that's what brought America again into that war.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you still think you hear stuff like that today, kids in cages and like all these like huge headline grabbers that, damn.
Soldiers eat babies. That's a fact.
I think we found the winner.
For anyone just listening, there's a World War I poster. Oh, maybe this is that one's not real, but still, I'm sure there's many just like this.
Exactly. Even it's a good joke, because these are pretty crazy. The ones that even if they aren't like that time period, but like I said, even the Uncle Sam ones, like that's what I'm talking about. It's like Uncle Sam's gonna stomp out Kaiser, like that kind of slogan. Like, dude, if I saw that pop up on my phone, I'd be like, get that bullshit out of here. But I swear to God, our grandparents were like, hell yeah, brother. Like, I don't know. I'm convinced it was easier, but like you said, that is
it probably was. It was definitely easier to rile the troops up, to get them going.
Let me ask you then, why Vietnam? Like, why was there such a pull there?
Why did people want to go to Vietnam?
Yeah, why did you say like more enlisted, less like of a draft?
Again, great prop, because again, like that, dude. I mean, we're so propagandized. Even I am, and you are. Like, we don't even know like our own thoughts. But that's what they did the same thing there. They told stories of how oh, the South Vietnamese, they just want freedom. They just want a democracy. They just want to have a constitution like we have. And the North are these evil communists, and they're slaughtering their women. They're doing this. And there was tons of violence, absolutely, in Vietnam. Like, they were on both sides, dude. They were doing things like that. They were like, I mean, they were pretty gruesome. But it wasn't like just the communists doing it. That's why Platoon, like, isn't where he like shoots at the guy's feet, like dance.
Yeah.
It like breaks people, violence. But yeah, so it's just like, but no one knows the history of this stuff. So nobody thinks like we just get tricked over. We're like, the people that do these things, they're probably, these people are so stupid. They can't see anything.
Yeah. And to be honest, dude, it's eye-opening to me going through this, like, because one, you don't make me feel like an idiot, but it's crazy because I can't believe how much I don't know. That you would think, like, I keep up with relatively a lot, like, and just to not have even a broad stroke, like, I don't know if I was gypped or if I just didn't pay enough attention.
You weren't. That's just what they don't teach it. And again, I think for example, for World War II history, the Rockefellers, you obviously know who they are. They gave $139,000. They started the American Historical Association, along with the American Medical Associations, American Psychological Association. They started all of these. Anyone that has APA or AMA, all Rockefeller started. So they gave $139,000 to the American Historical Association to write a quote unquote accurate history of World War II. So who do you think who's going to get that 139,000? Anybody that paints America in a bad light, the people that are funding them, or the people that write exactly what they want?
So it started just like that, like with a check written and be like, all right, we're going to start now. And isn't that crazy, dude? Because, like, what's to say, like, I really wonder. I wish I knew someone who had kids who in like elementary school, because what are they learning now? Like, when does history start?
Dude, you'll never, and think, what do you learn about in history? This is a good, what do you remember from learning in high school?
That's what I'm saying, dude. I don't remember much taught about
slavery, probably, right? We learned about the Civil War.
Yeah, slavery, the big, like, women's rights, when that, like, time period happened, like a lot of big bills, I would say. That was like the amendments. And then you usually learn a big part of growing up here is revolutionary history, especially because we live like amongst the land it took place. But those were the big ones, I would say. Nothing, not much about, like, I would say relatively recent history, like Vietnam. I don't know a thing about the Vietnam War.
Well, so I think that what they do is they teach us purposely the Civil War is written like that. The North is the savior. We're saving the African Americans. They need us. We're these good guys. The South are these evil slave owners, when really only the estimates go from 0.7% to 4% of the Southern population was rich enough to own slaves.
Wow.
When you hear the South, you think everybody had a plantation. They had armies of slaves. No, literally 0.7 to 4%. That's at the highest were owned slaves in the South. So they teach the things that are a Revolutionary War. The evil Brits are trying to enslave the Americas, and our freedom-loving founding fathers, we beat them back. And yet again, we are in the land of the good guys. We're always there, dude. We live amongst the good guys.
Yeah, that is crazy. And especially but let me ask you, nowadays, do you think it's starting to get exploited that, like, we might not be as good as people think? Because especially, I mean, for recent history, like with all this craziness going on these days, it's like, do you think people are becoming woke to the idea of, like, we might not be as great of a country as everyone thought we were?
Oh, I don't know, dude. I think probably.
Yeah. But I
American
mean, then
exception.
again, yeah, but then again, everyone's going to do the American way and just roll over and act like, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? And you know what I mean? Just keep living. So that's probably
Dude,
what's going
and
to
all the people like you and I and every citizen of every one of these countries, dude, we are not evil. Like when I say like who's good and who's bad as well, it's not us that's doing these things. We're just being like puppets
happen.
picked.
Yeah.
Who should we be angry at? Even like with the virus, were mad at the Chinese and stuff. Like again, it's like it doesn't make any sense. Just like the same way, they made up names for the Koreans. Like I
Yeah.
always joke, in Korean War and like they're not evil people. They're being brainwashed just the same way that you and I are being brainwashed.
And that gives me a little peace of mind. It's like at least I'm getting brainwashed with somebody else because like to be honest, it's like scary to think like, damn, I have hated a bunch of like groups of people, or like at least not hated is just too
Right.
much of a but like maybe had like a stereotype of because of like nonsense fed to me. And it's just
Yeah.
like all I'm doing is consuming it like a normal American. That is
Yeah.
nuts to think about.
Dude. And last, and then we're going to go to gold hunting because we got good jokes about gold. But the World War I, though, dude, it was so the big players was Britain, Germany, and Russia and America. And Russia, Germany, and Britain, they're all cousins, dude. The Tsar, the Kaiser, and King George. I think it was King George. I'm going to pull up a photo of the three of them. They're all cousins, dude.
No
Isn't
way,
that
like actual blood,
actual blood cousins, dude?
Wow, what a
And they all look the same. I'm gonna pull
yeah.
up.
You think? Look, imagine his dad sitting there, just how proud he is. Yeah, those are my boys. It's like the Manning family.
Isn't that dude? But isn't that crazy that you would do that to your own family? They were all blood related.
You wonder how
These
they fell into such different like. Yeah, but you're right though. Like you'd think there would be some level of civility. Like
you would think, dude, but they got tricked. So like they did all these things. These bankers, dude. That's how every war started. They just pick little things. They're trying to ignite. It's like a powder keg, and they just keep adding sparks to it, waiting to get it going, and eventually, like Europe was bankrupt after it was destroyed, dude. It was totally destroyed. And the only way it survived was because American just so happened we put a central bank here that prints money out of nothing. And we were able to loan money to Germany. And again, and last thing, Germany, so they lost the war, as obviously they put these crazy penalties on them. Like they had to pay back billions of dollars that they knew they couldn't do it. They crashed their economy. They bring in this time. It's called the Weimar Republic, where it was prostitution, child abuse, drugs, everything in Berlin, and be kind of like America, hyperinflation. And they did this purposely and then they funded this guy who has a mustache to bring normalcy back to Germany. And that's how you get into Nazi Germany.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing,
that's
bada
crazy, dude. Just to think they went like back to back that quick too. Like,
yeah,
it's like the joke. Like and what do you know? They do it again, and their foe again is the world. It's like crazy that they can do that. Wow,
dude, I know. Ooh, I just started that. All right, so it's a perfect. Scott and I, we have a joke. When we were struggling with drug, we'd always say we got to find a big bag of money and our lives would be fine, right? I think that's how our joke went.
Of course, yeah, because we were always on the lookout because it always gave us something to do. Jack and I would spend a lot of time in a car together, like weekly. It was like a full-time job, and it just gave you always something to be looking for. I always assumed it would be in a duffel bag form. We'd stumble into it. I'll be like, yo, I think that's it. And then we zip it and be like, oh my God, it's it. And then we take it and then run. So that's the idea, is like, you're always on the gold hunt, right? You can always keep your mind occupied looking for the treasure.
Exactly, dude. So this big bag of money, we were just like 60 years too late. So
yep.
I'm trying to pull up I'm trying to think of the what's it's called.
So let me ask, while you're looking it up, is the area in which we're going to be talking about, is it the traditional Golden West, like states you would think about?
Did you know where we're going or no?
Well, no, I know you said we were talking about gold, and that's what the obvious area you would assume, right? Is like states. So I would assume the two things that come to mind when you think gold: Colorado and San Francisco. I don't know if those hit home.
They don't, but it's just funny. We're actually on the other side of the world, but it's just you asked the perfect question. And so I was just like, dude, how did he? That's like you would think the West. But so I did the show. Yeah, so we're going the other side to live side of the planet to Asia. All right. So and in Asia, Japan, again, another island. They just dominate, dude. Like this little island, they are able to build all this stuff, and they in like the 1900s, they're enslaving Asia, dude. They take over Korea they enslave Korea, dude. Like they just come over there. They steal the artisans. They use the women as sex objects. They're basically like kind of colonize. They just like imperialize Korea. Yeah. And so they get all the wealth there. Like if you're hiding it, you're dead. I mean, these Japanese were so vicious, dude. They went to the Philippines. They went to China, and they, again, a small island. We got to pull up just so we can see.
Yeah.
But
give me the old size and weight on Japan, because good God, they're just running through
dude. I know. Like, again, how do these small countries, and that's why I find like so fascinating. Like, I mean, it's not, let's see if I can zoom.
That's a fart off the coast of Asia.
Exactly, dude. Like this is it right here. And that might be a part of, but not big, dude. Not big compared to China, to all this, to Russia. Japan fights Russia in 1905, whoops the shit out of them. They demolished 70% of Russia's navy in a second. Yeah, in a second, dude. They light them out. Germany and Russia says, like, because they got told to go fight them by Britain, and they say, yeah, we'll have your back. We'll have your back. Even though Britain was giving Japan technology and building them ships, and they sunk 70% of Russia's ships in an instant. But they get all this gold in South Korea, China, Vietnam. They're everywhere. Indonesia. They get all this gold. So and at this point, like this is the late 1800s, early 1900s. Europe, like us, our ancestors, we don't really have any idea what's going on. Like we're over there, we're making trading, but they don't have a bank. They use gold, and they're trading silver and stuff like that. And so this gold and silver has been untouched for thousands of years because we didn't send, like Christopher Columbus didn't go in Japan and decimate it like we did South America. Right. Yeah. And so, dude, imagine football fields. And I'm not exaggerating, like literal 100-yard underground bunkers filled to the brim with gold, dude.
Right, no way. So like an actual movie, like, Indiana Jones goes in and a room full of it.
Yes, dude. And I'm trying to find I see they don't have many because they don't want to, because there was this big, but like, dude, like you don't even know how much gold was there. So what happened was after World War II ends, we go into the Philippines, where this is where Japan hid. Like they booby trapped maps, everything. They did all this stuff. They booby trapped these things. They would build these like elaborate traps. So if you tried to go in, cyanide would come up. And the engineers, these Japanese engineers, they loved the emperor so much. They knew they were going to get buried alive inside the cave, and they would just yell, "Banzai, banzai," and they'd blow it up and they'd collapse it on themselves so that their emperor could come get the gold later, and the empire could survive.
There it is. Wow. Damn, sacrifice one for the many. Holy moly, dude. That is a lot of gold.
Dude, like, and we don't know how much gold, like trillions of dollars. Like, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, that leads me to one, where is it now? Two, did they understand the value of what they were sitting on? Like at that time? Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is like, I see there's no good here's a map though. Here, this is a good one. This is what one of their secret maps was. So for anyone listening, it's just like, we can't read it. It's written in Japanese. I don't know what it says, but there's like a compass and like a flag but these are their maps they had. And so, dude, this treasure hunting tourism still goes on today in the Philippines because, dude, they would scuttle boats with filled to the brim with gold because they knew they were losing the war very early in like 1941, 42.
Yeah.
They knew they were losing. By 43, Japan knew they were done for. So they just started purposely sinking ships and burying because they thought, all right, we'll lose this war, but we'll come back and get the gold and we'll rebuild. But America finds this gold in World War II at the end. And dude, like I said, football feel like trillions, and we never know what happens to the gold. It just disappears. And where it went into secret vaults and Swiss bank accounts. It went into say like they told the world we found this gold. What would happen to the gold market? Because the whole world economy at this time is based on the value of gold. It's like tied to gold.
Okay.
So if you just say you have 1 billion pounds of gold and now you introduce 5 more billions pounds of gold, you're going to crash the world economy because now the supply and demand changes.
Worthless.
Yeah. So what they did, they said, I got a better idea. Let's not tell anybody about it. Let's slowly use it to pay bribes. Let's use it to rebuild Europe. And no one will be the wiser that we're slipping in these massive amounts of gold reserves that Japan collected over 150 years in Asia.
And I'm sorry, you said who was now like who took it? Like who?
So remember we were talking the CIA?
Yeah.
This was how one of the CIA's first moves. So it was the OSS at this time, that Wild Bill Donovan. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yep. Him and all of these guys, they were out in the Pacific. That was like the creation of them because it was 45. They found all this gold. They didn't know what to do with it. And the CIA gets created 2 years later and they help put it in Swiss accounts. And that's not even to say, so all that gold plus all the gold the Nazis accumulated when they ravaged Europe as well. And all this gold, it never gets returned to the owners because it gets remelted. It gets put right into the pockets of our politicians or bribes. Isn't that disgusting, though?
It's crazy, dude. And if you think about like the missions they would go, like they knew there was a room full of gold, what these people would do, what lengths of gross stuff they would do to get it. And then just to like be like, all right, we're going to solve our own problems with all this gold we found. It's nuts. It's really crazy to think like how much and how big of an impact it could have had if fallen into the right hands. So what you're telling me is when Kojak Plus hits the road for our first field trip, I think we have our first destination.
Dude, we're going. We just got to find it.
My wife's scuba certified.
Hell, dude. Oh my God, that might be perfect. So like they found, and I'm remembering because I have my notes. I just forgot. But dude, there was actual like a 12-foot solid gold Buddha.
No.
Just in these things. Like, dude, and Matt, like it was over 2 tons of gold in a melted Buddha.
See, like I'm so dumb. I couldn't even fathom like that being made of gold. You know what I mean? I would look and be like, wow, dude, that's a cool looking rock. Like there's my head would explode.
Dude, they was so big they had to chop the head off the Buddha. And people like the soldiers that were around this, they would just like pocket, obviously, who wouldn't?
Yeah, just chip the nose off. Be like, oh yeah, dude, it wasn't there when I found it.
They just destroyed them because they're like, well, we can't. What are we gonna do with this? Like, we got to melt it down anyway. Just chop its head off. And
I'm trying to get the crash your economy gold. Like that's how much gold I'm trying to find,
dude. And that's what they had. And it was so Nixon, President Nixon, he uses it, and then like it never, dude. We don't even know again where it went. Like there was so much gold that it went to Swiss bank accounts and some of it went into America, like Fort Knox and stuff like that. But none of this gold was ever openly admitted that we had it. So they used it as a slush fund so Japan after the war, they didn't want the emperor coming back. So they bribed the democratic people who wanted a constitution to make sure they won elections. They did it in Italy because Italy was on Germany's side in World War II. They didn't want the communists going there. So they used the gold to fund their politicians and on and on and on. So they just used it as a bargaining chip. The CIA did to make sure they could continue to grow their power.
Is there any idea if there's any left? Like, or is
there's
it just
still
like
tons left?
Okay.
Well, dude, even the interest alone on like the gold, It's
Yeah.
like it's uncalculable how much money it is, dude. Like we
That
can't even in the trillions of dollars of
Yeah,
gold.
which is insane to me. That like a
Yeah.
metal, like, this thing you can find just holds, it's making the world go round.
Yes,
It's
dude.
pretty scary to be honest.
Dude, like the one guy, he was in the triads. I think
Yeah.
that's the Japanese triads.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Okay. Because so the one guy, he's the leader of the triads. He was running they were also big in the heroin game
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So that's how Japan got all their gold as well. In China, in Korea and Manchuria, that's like right next to Russia by China, they had opium plants and they were just making tons of opium, the triads, and giving it and they got all of China addicted. They got all of Korea addicted. And this is another way they just held value. So these people would sell their own family out because they're withdrawing.
Yeah.
And the Japanese just knew that they could, but the one leader they gave after the war ended, because they needed him to help facilitate, their drug trafficking. They gave him the CIA gave him $100 million just in gold, just to continue being their boy.
So that leads me to my question is, what would we do if we did find like a duffel bag full of gold? Like, we could only take a reasonable amount, right? Because at some point someone's coming to look for us.
Oh
right?
yeah, dude. We would already be dead. We would be dead.
Because you can't go to good old like A-Town pawn with them.
No,
they don't.
You cannot bring a kilo of gold to a pawn shop and say, "What can I get for this?"
Excuse me, good sir, could join. How much for one of these?
And I'll take that guitar you have up in your shelf right there.
I see the vintage Jimi Hendrix signed guitar. I don't need to see the letter to certify it's real. No.
Also, that iPad Mini that I pawned to you 3 months ago for $20, I'd also like that back.
The N64 with the games I gave. Yep, I'll take those.
Dude, people, just so you know, that's what real things that happen to drug addicts. You would take anything you owned and go pawn it for pennies on the dollar, and with every, it would be like whatever. It may mean a lot, and you'd say, "I'll get it back. I'll get
childhood memories." My N64 just gone within seconds without a care for it at all. Nowadays, it's like heartbreaking.
I know, dude. Right? I think of this what people have at pawn shops, dude. Oh my god,
great memories. Hey, if you want a good Christmas idea, go into your local pawn shop. I agree. Yeah, get some good items,
dude. I've made that thought too. You could go to a pawn shop and get probably not gold, jewelry, because they probably just pay the weight it's worth. But you could get a lot of good stuff at a pawn shop.
I got the crazy pawn shop story. So
tell me.
This is a bad one. So I had it was an old typewriter that my dad had in the buried in his basement. It's a good ending because I didn't end up pawning it. I had
okay. All right, good.
I said it was worth nothing. But it's the whole story is me going to the pawn shop. So it's in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
And I get there, pull up, and there's police tape around the entire block. And I'm feeling like dog shit, dude. And I was just so pissed. And I was like, I just want to get $20 for this typewriter.
Yeah.
Get me in now, please. I go up so I approach, because I think, when you get a certain level of withdrawal, you get you don't care about anything.
No, nothing matters.
I walked right up to the cop and I was like, hey man, what's going on? Is there any chance? The pawn shop I was going into had bought I think it was a World War II bomb. And the bomb fell off the display.
Oh my god!
And I guess prior to buying, they did not get it certified, so they had to bring in a bomb tech. And there I am, withdrawing off heroin, watching a robot drive into the pawn shop to test if the bomb was real. Long story short, it wasn't real, and I ended up not being able to pawn it. It was awful,
dude. Well, that's a good ending, though.
Yeah, it was a good show. And don't do heroin, kids. It leads to awful things like that.
Unless you have this gold in Japan, if you find that, then I guess you could play around with it. But just be careful, because you'll run out of
the opium fields.
Yes. But dude, so that like all the, but like, and after again, like this after World War II, it was another final shot at just like how I said World War I's to get rid of the monarchies. World War II was a similar thing. Like it wasn't a monarchy in Germany. You had one in Japan, you had the empire, but no central bank in Germany, no central bank in Japan, no central bank in Italy because Mussolini kicked them out. And after World War II, one of the first things they always do is they open up the Freemasonic lodges. And someone in the chat asked, was there Freemasonry in Japan? I don't know. I didn't know that, but that's that. And then they install a central bank in the losers' countries. So right now, though, there's 3 countries that don't have a central bank. North Korea, who we hate, right? We're all Iran, who we also, again, and I think Cuba is the last one.
No,
so these 3
they would fall in the mix.
Right. So these are our 3 adversaries that, North Korea's and Iran's making nukes. They're not, if they are, they can't. I don't even think nukes are real, but they're just our adversaries because they don't have central banks.
Yeah. And with that comment, because that's something you've been saying since I think the start of the show, or at least I remember you having a piece of merch that said nukes aren't real. Yeah. That's one that always sleeps, or I've seen you talk about it. I've from a distance, but it didn't really click with me because with that, I mean, it's a bold claim to make, right?
It is, dude. Yeah,
telling us that that's the reason all of this is going on. Like at least that's like the OG version of why wars start. Oh, they're threatening to use their nukes. Like nowadays, you don't hear it as much, but maybe that's due to what you're about to tell.
Well, so the nukes aren't real. So I went down. So we're going to do a Tartari episode later, but so that came up with that and like flat Earth. The nukes aren't real. It's kind of all in this same conspiracy. And so I read this book called The Nuclear Hoax. I'm going to see if I can pull it up. But so I struggled not believing it either, right? Like I was like, there's no way that cannot be true. Like nukes are real. Think like Japan, Nagasaki, we dropped the 2 bombs, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to pull up the book. But
and those, just for my own understanding, those are considered nuclear bombs, right?
Right.
Okay.
So
by definition,
the way that this is a good photo. The nuclear test site, New Mexico. So with our nukes, we spend this. It's called the Manhattan Project. Einstein's on it. All these big physicists are on it in America. They're failing, dude. They are failing. We're in the war. I think it's already like 1942. And we need it, dude. We don't have it and we want to use it soon. And we still have nothing. So a month before here's the photo, Scott. Okay. All right. So a nuke, right? The biggest bomb in the world, biggest bomb. Well, I guess now there's bigger, but at the time, right? The biggest bomb in the world. So they drop it they blow it up. And here is our first test. This is the biggest bomb in the world, Scott. Here it is. The Trinity test site. That's the bomb.
No, it's not. That little thing on the right?
Right here. This is the remnants of what blew up.
With the big guy with the fupa?
Yeah, with the big guy with the fupa standing over it. This is it.
No, that's
not the nuke. Yes, it is.
That looks like I jumped down really hard.
This guy, yeah, he looks like he just cannonballed into that hole.
That's all it looks like. It looks like someone took a shovel and tried for 3 minutes.
Dude, this is it. Here it is again. So there was a structure on top. So it was like I think it was this. It was this structure. It was like 30 feet in the air.
Yeah,
and
I get that.
So they exploded it they dropped the bomb from the top and it exploded. And that's what it blew up, dude. That little hole that we saw.
I would have guessed that was a piece of cartoon dynamite. That's what I consider that. Yeah, it did a little bit of damage, and it would probably hurt you if you were near it. So that's how it started, or
so that was our first test. So we do that test, right? And that's a success. Everyone says, wow, look at this huge explosion. It looks like a big guy just cannonballed in. That's gonna knock out a country. Yeah. And so we say, all right, that's perfect. We got it. We nailed it. You know what? We're gonna drop 2 new ones. let's change it up. We're going to go through a totally different delivery system. We got this one. Let's just change it now. We got a month till we're going to drop it. Are we going to test it? No, we're not going to test it. Just drop it. It'll work. And so that's what they did. They literally changed the delivery system from this, science, like fusion. I don't know, dude, whatever. Yeah. Whatever they did, they changed it. And there's also like, whenever you do something, it's called like a systems test, like for computers or whatever. So you test each like a mechanism by itself. So if there's a problem, you can say, well, it's not this. We tested that. It's not this.
It identifies it. Yeah.
Right. So you can know like, so this is what we need to focus on. They did none of that. They did none of that. And also in all the papers leading up to it, they kept talking about it and they kept saying, oh, we don't have enough plutonium or uranium. We even if we mined all of this stuff for 10 years, we wouldn't have enough for a bomb. And then a month later, they magically have enough to do it. I'm trying to find the good quotes.
But I'm confused on the correlation between the two. Like we have that little fart of a bomb, and now, but what explains the huge mushroom cloud that the bomb dropped? Like I'm not understanding.
That's a good question, dude. That's a good question. I'm just
like what are you saying about why is nukes aren't real? Like why? Because if the bomb dropped in Japan, how isn't that? I get what you're saying. The first attempt didn't look pretty, and
yeah, dude. So I'm sorry, I'm just responding to a comment. But so nukes, though. So the mushroom, right? Do you remember? It was like 2 years ago. There was this explosion in Beirut, and that's Lebanon.
Yeah.
And it was like they claimed it was like a fertilizer plant, and it blew up. I'm just gonna pull it up. Beirut explosion. Then we'll go back to the nuke.
But I do remember. And
so there was a mushroom cloud in the Beirut explosion. I'm trying to find a good. I guess we'd have to like watch the video, but regardless, it was a mushroom clear. So there was a mushroom cloud that formed in Beirut, and everybody, when you think, I'm sure you think this as well. If you see a mushroom cloud, you think, here it is. You think it's a
huge bomb,
a nuke. Yeah. But most bombs, I'm not going to say it because I'm not a weapons guy, but many bombs create a mushroom cloud. That's like a normal phenomenon that happens. A lot of these bombs, has nothing to do with being a nuclear or anything like that. But yeah, so it's not the mushroom aspect of it. That's just like you just attribute it to that, but it's not.
So is the argument just on simply it being a quote unquote nuclear bomb? Like right. So what did they drop in Japan?
They dropped in Japan, and I wish I had all my photos. That's what I was looking for before we started. But so at this point, when we dropped in 1945, it might have been 44, 45, but Japan's done, dude. We've bombed the shit out of them. We firebombed them. So basically, though, what we did, because these wars are ran by bankers, we would bomb meaningless things, bridges. But we never bombed the Mitsubishi plant that was making weapons. We would never bomb the where the emperor lives, where their living god. We never touched the emperor where he lives.
Where people like me would say, "Let's go bomb there." Like them,
right? A regular person. If you are my ultimate enemy, I'm going to bomb your god because your living god, because we're at war, right? We hate you. But no, they didn't bomb that. They didn't bomb their weapons factories. They didn't bomb their processing plants. No, they didn't bomb any of that stuff. We bombed meaningless things. But so Nagasaki and Hiroshima, two cities that were destroyed, Scotty. They were decimated. There was nothing left. They were completely gone. And so we dropped bombs there on places that are completely destroyed. Like 90% of the city was gone. We didn't drop it on Tokyo, their capital. Why would you pick two random? So why they did that was because these cities were already destroyed. And they knew that if we say we can control the press. We can say, look, it melted this city. And no, what we did was we just firebombed it. We dropped a bunch of napalm, and these firestorms happened because of all these bombs, and it just melted the whole town.
Got it.
And that, so they used, and so they just approved like the stories that happen. So when we dropped the bomb, they, where America tells all its military, all right, go away. Like nobody can fly over this area from this time to this time. And, and so they say that, but let me see a photo of dropped bomb. And I know the photo, so I just got to pull it up. I think it's this one. Yeah. So this photo right here, one of these two. Yeah, this one. So they say nobody can come over. We're about you can't look. This one on the third one. And so they say no one can fly, no fly zone. So all these planes are leaving. But what do you know? This one random photographer plane, they didn't get the memo, dude. They didn't hear about it. So at 5:29 a.m., they're chugging along. They say, oh my God, what's that? And they take a photo. But the thing is, with the measurements of how big these bombs are supposed to be, their plane should have been wiped out because they were within like 10 miles of the radius.
Yeah.
So they should have got hit with like this insane windstorm that would have just decimated their plane in an instant. But they said they outran it. They saw it. They got the photo. They turned around and they were riding in front of the shock wave, able to avoid being just decimated in the sky.
The tail of the plane starts lighting on fire.
Yeah,
they got
exactly. Dude,
landed in the field.
It's like a movie story. It's a movie story. And like all these things they talk about, like nuclear shadows, and like your shadow gets burned on the pavement from where you're. All these, they're lies. They're lies, dude. They're lies to trick. What's that?
I said even that one. I like that one, the shadow one.
Yeah. Well, dude, that's what they said. Like the nukes are so powerful, your shadows burned on the pavement or whatever they say, the radiation. Okay. Oh, that was another thing. All right. Radiate. You can't go there for years. Why is Japan? Why did they go right back? They went right back to Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Maybe a year. Shouldn't they all be totally deformed? Should nothing be able to grow there because of the pounds of radiation that we dropped on there? Why? How's their trees? How's their trees growing? How's their fish? How's their animals anywhere in the area? It should all be gone.
It's on one of the most recent, Planet Earth or whatever. I think it's Animal, whatever one it was. They do an episode on it, like where there's those heavily radiated areas, but wildlife is thriving. There's deer. And they don't have 8 heads. They look pretty normal.
No. So yeah, and I'm trying to find that those are like the big points. I'm just trying to see. Oh, and then there was a guy, he wasn't American. He was like a big military guy. He might have been American. He wanted to go over to see what this, oh wait, here. General yeah, but basically this big guy, he said that, if you would have asked me, I would have no idea that the biggest weapon ever, this is what happened to it. It didn't look like anything. But basically what these nukes were able to do, though, from a propaganda standpoint, was now everyone is terrified of, oh my God, America could drop a nuke on us. And what did we say after we dropped it? Never again. It was too horrible. We're never going to do it again. But it's just a way now you can fund money. The Russians, they're building nukes. So now yeah.
It is pretty crazy, dude. That's true too. It's like all these huge events, and then it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna not do that again. Like it worked, quote unquote, because that wasn't that the claim. Like that's what ended it. Like it was the big boom, and that was but now we just don't use that tactic that worked 2 for 2.
It was too evil, Scotty. We're good people. It was too evil. It was too evil.
That's crazy, dude. That's like, and that's another thing. It's almost, I need to stop being embarrassed because, but it is crazy with how plain it is. Like it's only been done twice. They stop, but you don't think about it that way. You don't realize like, why didn't they ever do it again?
Right. Against these evil people. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, there was also like other really good, but and then also like there's these stories of these nuclear attack survivors. Many of them have been proven to be fake, but like the one guy, you'll see it on LinkedIn. The guy, he was in Nagasaki at work and the bomb went off. So he rode his bike home. His wife was at home in Hiroshima. The bomb went off, but he dug through the rubble. He found her surviving both nuclear attacks within seconds. He was so lucky he survived both of them.
No, he did.
Dude. Oh, really? He took the the next day, he took the train. It just doesn't make any, like, this train should have been destroyed, but yet he was able to ride the train back to work the next day. This one guy, again, the way they sold this story was after the nuke, this one paid author, he writes a story about like 13 Japanese children who survived the bombs and about their stories. And it was a huge book at the time in the 50s, like what they went through, these sob stories. They couldn't find it. None of these kids ever existed. He just made them all up.
Yeah, is this the same guy that wrote Die Hard? Like, that story is so crazy. And then he jumped over a vat of scorpions.
Exactly, dude.
What are you talking about?
Exactly, dude. Like this guy he survived a nuke, and then he just, again, like how did he survive like that? And they make these stories, they're so fantastical, but you believe them because why would they lie? Why would they lie? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when in all reality, it's like the bomb went off. I shit my pants. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it starts, it's bad right away. You're not like riding through the rubble. Like, no, dude, that's so dumb. Oh.
Dude. Yeah. And so this was at the time already in 1945, they exaggerate the population, but at that time, they already 8.5 million Japanese were already left. And they just went, wherever they could go, not in the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So at the time when the bomb went off, there was around 100,000 people in the area. And, so a very small population left because their city's destroyed already. Like, why would you wouldn't stay there? And so the book about the eyewitnesses, it was 60 children, and it was written in 1959. So if you have a book that's about World War II, this was the first book about the children of Japan and the nukes. And you waited till 15 years later to write the book? Yeah. You waited a decade and a half?
And your eyewitnesses are 60 kids?
Yeah, like what? That doesn't make any... Why would you wait so long? It didn't take you 15 years to write it, but...
well, when you got to come up with running through the rubble, scooping my wife up,
yeah,
fighting off an alligator at the same time. It's like, come on. When you got to come up with that, it's going to take you 15 years.
Dude, so it was called that guy, the last train from Hiroshima. So he caught the last train out before the bomb. And then he caught the train to Nagasaki and he lived through that. And that's like the story. There's like a lady who survived the Titanic and another ship. It's just like they do these like, cause we love stories, and it's just, last thing about the war. This war was also started by, we knew Pearl Harbor was happening. We encouraged it to happen 11 days before they attacked Hawaii. FDR's son, he was our president. His son wrote a note to Winston Churchill, was the British prime minister. He said, action expected within 2 weeks. Be ready. And they knew we broke Japan's codes months earlier, and everyone was just nervous. If Japan finds out we break their codes, they're going to turn around and not bomb us and not bring us into World War II. And because we allowed them to, that's why they put all of our stuff there, all these old ships and things. They didn't tell any of the colonels there, but the top dogs in America knew we were about to be attacked.
Yeah, that's a tough look, I would say, especially knowing what happened. I
dude,
saw the Ben Affleck movie. I know.
Which one? Which Ben Affleck movie?
The Pearl Harbor.
Oh, I know them. Yeah, dude. But yeah, they lied. They lied. They knew it was coming. And yeah.
That's crazy, dude. That's a whole episode in itself.
Well, so that we went over a little bit. So we had a lot of people. So tell everyone where they can find you. All those good things. Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, the host of Just Be Normal. The Twitter is JBN Pod and Instagram Just Be Normal Podcast. Please add us and like and 5-star anything you can.
Nice. Yeah. Leave a review for my buddy. Please. And leave a review for this show. So I hope we had about 15 people watching at some time. So thanks for all of the usuals. I'll be on Wednesday. We'll have to talk to Scotty about Operation Phoenix, which was, if you guys don't, Scott, real Operation Phoenix is we brought in these horrible, the most evil people of Vietnam and the Philippines. We brought them in. They worked under the CIA. They would slaughter entire towns and villages, drain their blood, all this stuff to mentally break the Vietnamese to follow. So that's on Wednesday, and we'll talk about that. And that's it, guys. All right. Thanks for listening. I'm Jack Allen. We'll talk soon. Peace.
Peace.